Well, it's been a month since the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah began, a month in which many Beirutis had been looking forward to festivals, fun and freedom, as had, of course, the Israelis. Instead, the word Beirut is now once again preceded with the word war-torn, as it was throughout the 1980s. Robin Denslow has been in Lebanon for much of the conflict and reflects on the impact of the last month on life in that country.
Today, it seems almost impossible to believe. But until just 1 month ago, July the 12th, on the Hezbollah abduction of 2 Israeli soldiers, this is what Baalbek was famous for. The most magnificent Roman ruins in Lebanon, a major tourist attraction and a setting for one of the country's international summer festivals. The great Fairuz, the diva and cultural symbol of Lebanon, was to play here, along with the British rock band Deep Purple. Suddenly that image has been shattered. The town is now known for the Israeli commando raid, in which they snatched a local trader, Hassan Nasrallah, and did so, the locals claim, because he has the same name as the Hezbollah leader. Today his shop is shuttered and deserted. But Hezbollah do have followers in the surrounding region, and roads around Baalbek have been heavily bombed. Booming Lebanon had a new magazine, Beirut Time Out. Now, of course, it has ceased publication, and the editor can only look back at all that is suddenly lost.
It was the season of concerts in the summer. It was the beach season. Lots and lots of people. Where we're sitting right now would have been absolutely crowded. You couldn't move, barely get a table with the amount of tourists who were here. It was really going to be the first summer after the Syrian withdrawal, with everyone really feeling free and things happening, and it was looking really exciting.
In just 1 month, Lebanon has been transformed. There is, of course, suffering in Israel, but nothing compared to the devastation here, with at least 800, perhaps 1,000 killed, 1 million losing their homes, industries destroyed, and an environmental disaster. And as the fighting continues in the south, Beirut faces both aerial bombardment and psychological warfare. It is at times a strange, almost surreal war. On a hilltop above Beirut, Lebanese television teams keep up a 24-hour watch to provide live reports on the bombing, until now directed largely at the Hezbollah-dominated southern suburbs just below. Overhead, the Israeli Defense Force keeps watch. And yet just a mile or so away along the seafront, it's almost possible to imagine that these are normal times. There are even designer shops still open, a reminder of how far the Lebanese economy had progressed 15 years on from the ending of the civil war. And then suddenly, the old image is shattered as the bombing continues. This was Beirut 2 nights ago. We counted 8 explosions in less than an hour. In this mountain area high above the capital, every little school is packed with those who've moved to what, for now at least, is considered a safer haven. An estimated 100,000 of those displaced have fled up here in the adjoining Shuf Mountains. Some have come from the Beirut suburbs, others from the south. And this man, Hassan Hamadi, has fled with his family from the scene of one of the most horrific incidents of the last month, the killings at Kana.
All our neighborhood. You know, some people lost, some people get killed, some people didn't survive. And some people, I don't know anything about them. From 15 days until now.
56 civilians, including 37 children, died in Kana back on July the 30th. They were sheltering in a basement that was bombed. The incident caused fury across Lebanon, and there were brief hopes among some Lebanese that the outrage might lead to a ceasefire. But the fighting continued on both sides, as did the flood of the displaced trying to flee north. The displaced are mostly Shia Muslims, now seeking refuge in areas dominated by other groups, Sunnis, Druze or Christians. There's clearly the potential for tension, but so far at least Lebanon is pulling together. 1 month on, it's not just the hundreds of thousands who've fled from their homes who are suffering. Israel's target may be Hezbollah, but the war now affects everyone in Lebanon, and every day gets harder. South of Beirut, in Jia, thick smoke still belches from an oil storage tank at a power plant bombed by Israel in the early days of the war. 12,000 tons of leaking oil have already spilled into the Mediterranean, with UN warnings that this could be a disaster to match Exxon Valdez in Alaska. But for now there can be no clean-up, Already over 100 miles of coastline and tourist beaches have been polluted. And yet, back in town, motorists still queue for petrol, with many drivers waiting for several hours a day, amid the constant reports that the oil will run out within days if tankers don't get in. Beirut is getting frustrated and increasingly jittery as the Israeli bombs move closer to the centre. And yesterday, an attack right in the heart of Beirut, on an old lighthouse that was said to have a state TV antenna on top. Whatever the aim of the attack, it'll be seen as yet another escalation. The disused lighthouse may have been built back in the French colonial era, but it's right in the very heart of central Beirut in a smart residential area. A few hours later, an Israeli leaflet drop, again right in the centre of town, warning to people to get out of certain new Beirut districts that were now to be targeted, and attacking what the leaflets called the Hezbollah terrorist gang. Some of those from the area's name simply fled, so yet another wave of the displaced arrived in the city centre, looking for somewhere safer to stay, but warning that many had stayed behind.
Not all. The most of people, they still there. Yeah, because they are poor and they don't have any way to go. They are poor.
Tactics like this, together with the Israeli practice of phoning people, apparently at random across Lebanon, to blame Hezbollah for all the country's troubles, have led to accusations of psychological warfare. One of those who's received such calls claims that Israel is trying to divide the country.
There is an atmosphere of terror. Israel is trying to terrorize us. One of the ways in which they are trying to win the war, or the psychological war, is by trying to divide the population, by trying to demonize Hezbollah and represent them as a terrorist group that is foreign to the body of Lebanon or to the society of Lebanon.
So they've been phoning people up, like yourself, with messages?
Yes, yes.
Saying what?
There's a recording that comes up and that basically declares Hassan Nasrallah as a terrorist.
1 month of war is being commemorated in Lebanon with a series of events. Tomorrow there's a planned civil resistance march to reclaim the south. While on the edge of Beirut's Martyrs Square there's a memorial for the dead, constructed from gravestones and candles, one for every 2, perhaps 3 of those who've been killed here. The pressures are enormous, but the country has held together so far.
I'm very afraid of what might happen to my country, because we lost everything. We lost blood, we lost buildings, we lost infrastructure, we even lost our environment.
This was supposed to be a summer of celebration and festivals, but 1 month on from the start of the war, the main concern in Lebanon is simply survival.